Good evening and welcome, and thank you for joining me here on this Sunday, September 24th, 2023. Tonight, I have a guest coming on that I have really been looking forward to. She doesn't do a whole lot of appearances on other channels, so the chance to get her to come on here it's been thrilling. And she's just been an absolute darling to deal with. But you know how this goes. We got to bring in our pal from Clearwater. Chad, how are we doing, bud?
Good, Poe. How you doing today?
Excellent, excellent. So you got that weather report for us, sir?
Absolutely. We'll get
All
right to
righty.
work. We got a lot of work to do. 82 degrees in Clearwater, Florida, Poe. 10% precip. The wind is at 1, Poe, and it's 55% humid.
All righty. Well, we're waiting for Karen to get set there, and then we're going to bring her in just a second here. So how's everything been going there, Chad?
Oh, good. Thanks. Real busy. How about you, Poe?
Oh, doing good, doing good. Like we were talking earlier, busy day, getting out there, doing a lot of work in the yard, getting things done on the zero turn and some new equipment. Got some new content coming out for that. Laser's been kicking my hind end, just doing a lot of work with that. So I'm going to go ahead and pull you on out, Chad. Chad will be back in later, folks. But I think that an introduction is called for on this one. Karen De La Carriere served almost 20 years in the Sea Org. She was trained by L. Ron Hubbard himself. She is one of only 8 people on Earth that have ever reached the pinnacle of Class 7 case, looks like Class 12 case supervisor. I can't read in the Roman numerals. And basically what that means is she managed the highest Scientology trained counselors in the world. She's married to the Church of Scientology International President, Heber Jensch. They had a son born and raised in Scientology who sadly passed away at 27 years old due to action or possibly inactions because of the tech that they use in Scientology. She now has her own YouTube channel. She's had it for over 10 years and has over 13 million views of her content, garnering her 1 million views a year. Without any further introduction, let's bring in a true lady and someone I truly love talking to, Karen De La Carriere. Hello, Karen.
Hi, Poe. Hi, everybody.
How you doing, darling?
Good, good. Doing great.
So, yeah, it's been a busy week coming up, a lot of stuff coming out, and it's sadly we had some trolls, and I don't know who they're with or what they're doing, but I had to delete a lot of very, very rude comments that were put up there. So we know that you've got some attention coming over here like this.
Yes. Oh, yes.
You've made quite a name for yourself. Um, you know, one of the questions I got is, what is Scientology? Can you explain that to us? Since you're one of the originals, you were there pretty much as things were starting. So, what is Scientology?
I'm going to summarize Scientology in one quick paragraph.
Okay.
Scientology is an exorcism cult. What does that mean, exorcism? It means the entire essence and what they call going OT, becoming supernatural, is to jettison out attached spirits that you don't know are joined into your spiritual psyche. They're either attached to your body or they're attached to you. Now, here's the thing. The bait and switch is incredible. If when people walked in the door, they were honest and straight, like the Catholic Church of Latter, here's what we believe. Here's the Bible. Here's the doctrine. Jehovah's, you want to read our publication? And they lay out what they're about. Scientology doesn't do that. It's all a secret, confidential. After you're $150,000 into it, slowly you're going up there, levels, and only at OT3 is this bombshell, what they call wall of fire. And the wall of fire, the holy grail, the secret is, hey, you're not a single person. You're deluded if you think you're just you in the body. You are a jammed up collision of 400 million other spirits. And only Scientology knows how to give you techniques to flush them out and exorcise them.
Wow.
That's Scientology in one paragraph. Very hidden, very confidential.
Oh yeah.
Then, when you've got all your family in and your children are in the seal, then you are enlightened on their secret confidentiality.
That's I've talked about it before, and I remember when I was a teenager seeing the volcano video, the commercial,
Mm.
and going out and finding a copy of Dianetics for myself. And I remember I was maybe a couple chapters into it and literally just threw it away. I was like, this makes no sense whatsoever. And once you start looking into it more and more, the fact that they're saying that you have the thetans build up in you and all that, and it's just, I mean, for a lot of us who come from a Christian background or from a somewhat close to Christian background, it's very hard to visualize the things that Hubbard was saying in his writings and in his text. So it gets to be, it's hard for us to swallow it. For folks who weren't part of Christianity, they were in a different kind of religious belief, or they weren't into any at all. I think it would be a lot easier for them to understand and be brought into it and be understanding. But the biggest thing is that, like you said, you're $150,000 into it before you start realizing, what have I gotten myself into?
The bait and switch is so dishonest because they don't lay it on the line. They've got this huge pretense of you're not psychically, spiritually available to see these spirits till you've done $500,000 worth or $250,000 worth of their lower, and then they tell you what they're really about.
I was absolutely shocked hearing how much Leah had spent between her auditing.
$5 million.
Yeah, she's, oh my gosh, she's spent so much money, and now she's out of it. She's never going to see any of that money back. It's all gone. And, it's amazing. What do you have to show for it besides piles of books that you're never going to use again? And it's a real sad thing, because any kind of religion, when you think about them, it's not about what you can do for it. It's about what the religion will give you for free. And if you choose to repay or give back some kind of offering or tithe, then that's your choice, but you're not forced to do it. Whereas with Scientology, they pretty much have a price list of everything that they want from you before you even start doing anything. And that's, to me, that's absolutely amazing. And talking about the bait and switch, like you're talking about, that literally goes into my next point of, in spite of all the illegal things that they're being reported of doing, how do they still exist? How can they continue operating like they do? Me personally, having talked with your husband, Jeffrey, who, by the way, is in the chat. Everyone make sure you say hi to Jeffrey. He's the Scientology Money Project. Talking with him, and then the other people that I've had on, and hearing all the different things, human trafficking, abuses of people, hiding people away from the authority, blocking law enforcement from being able to effectively investigate criminal acts, all those different things. In your opinion, how do you think that they're still existing to this day?
Poe, it boggles the mind. Boggles the mind. I do know that the humble little local prosecutor with his limited budget is scared to take on the big elephant. But it's Hubbard put in his doctrines over and over again and you're indoctrinated in this from day one. It's called Keeping Scientology Working. And you're indoctrinated that there is nothing, not your kids, not your wife, not your beliefs, nothing more important than making Scientology survive. Do whatever you want, whenever you want, however you want, criminal, non-criminal. It's not criminal because you're helping this wonderful survival tool to save planet Earth. Therefore, there is an incredible indoctrination to save Scientology at any cost.
And forgive me, I'm not ignoring you.
Scientology would not survive if there weren't 150 Office of Special Affairs, Sea Org members working 70, 80 hours a week to do nothing else but glom onto federal agencies to provide data to show their good, just morning, noon, and night, they're fighting for their survival. However, thanks to people like Aaron Smith-Levin and Busted Alex, and all the second gen, you wonder where will Scientology be as we go into the future.
And I think that one of the big things, when you look back at what they did to the IRS, what they've done to other people who've stood up against them, so like Russell Miller or Paulette, and how that they've done things when they literally take full page ads out in newspapers where they're accusing people, upstanding people, of the most vile and horrible things. I can understand why previously someone who was a prosecutor or a law enforcement officer would have fear and reservation about going after them. But in the day of the internet and everything that's going on now, they don't have the leg that they used to have. They don't have that immunity that they can do these things and get away with it. Just recently, I saw that someone had posted something about me and literally going, I heard that he never even was an actual police officer. And it was hilarious because my response to that was link after link after link of newspaper articles, television, news spots where I'd been on as a police officer. And then the final one was the article where I was appointed as the chief of police for the city of Luna Pier. It was literally a full page article with several pictures of me in it. And I'm like, how can you doubt any of that? You can even go on the state of Michigan website and look it up and see that I still hold accreditation as a law enforcement officer, but they'll do what they can. The main thing is to throw that shade in there. So, yeah.
May I give you a couple of anecdotes on how they handle the IRS?
Yes, ma'am. And I'm not ignoring you. I actually write down notes as I'm talking to people. So that's what I do. Go ahead.
In the early 1990s, Scientology was really swaggering with their power.
Oh, yeah.
And what they did is they hounded the IRS as if the IRS was some little twerp to be crushed. They would follow the IRS to conventions, take pictures of them drinking alcohol and circulating, and then publish magazines trashing the IRS, which they then sent out a couple of 100,000 to other agencies. They trashed the IRS. They would wait outside that main office they have in Fresno, California. And when they would come out for their lunch break, hand them flyers of deadly accusations. I mean, they were acting worse than the IRS than they do to you or me. They were just trashing these civil servants, just morning, noon, and night. It was nonstop. The barrage was nonstop.
And let's remember, these are common everyday people doing their job. And they're doing this to them. People with families, with children, wives, husbands. It's just, to me, that's...
Hubbard said to do it.
Yeah.
You're supposed to crush and destroy anyone opposing. Now, the IRS wasn't putting out black propaganda. They just simply weren't giving tax exemption, and that was considered. So, part two of my story. they hounded and harassed the IRS over and beyond anything. I mean, just nonstop, 24/7, 365. And then the story goes, it's been contested, but this is what was put out. Marty Rathbun and David Miscavige were in Washington, D.C. They were walking on the pavement, and there was the IRS building. And David Miscavige went up to the reception, security guard, whatever, the entrance guy, and said, "Tell the commissioner we want to see him. It's David Miscavige from the Church of Scientology." And the guard entrance, nobody walks in and says, "Tell the commissioner we're here." No appointment. Just walk in. Anyway, this is the legend and story. It's been published here, there, and everywhere. The commissioner agreed to see them, and they were ushered up to this high floor. And David Miscavige said, "I'll make..." One other very important thing. Because Scientology has these little satellite churches, they're now half empty. Now they're open twice, but they're dotted all over the United States. And in every little city and village that they had, even two staff, they filed a lawsuit on the IRS. So the IRS had 2,500 lawsuits. When you have to defend, if you don't defend, you can lose by default. So they had 2,500 lawsuits filed in these little towns all over the United States. All right, so Marty Rathbun and David Miscavige walk up to the commissioner's office, and David Miscavige looks at the commissioner and said, "We can make it all go away in 1 second. Gone. No more lawsuits, no more fighting, no more flyers, no more. We'll withdraw all the lawsuits. Just give us tax exemption and we'll vanish your 2,500. This was reported many times.
And I'd forgot about that they had filed so many lawsuits. They were literally bankrupting the IRS. So, yeah.
The IRS, you can ask a judge to join them all into a consolidated, but nevertheless, the attacks on the IRS were humongous.
Mm-hmm.
So the bribery and deal to the IRS commissioner was, do you want all this to go away? Do you want all this to stop? We can make it stop. So the blackmail of the cult and what they've done with other whistleblowers. Look, we'll stop harassing you. We take it all down to only do this for that. That was the successful blackmail, so the IRS accepted that. Oh, and they told the IRS, not only will we stop harassing you, but we will make every parishioner pay you honestly taxes before they get any spiritual redemption. They are going to bow to your rules and regulations. This is what the bribery was. And the commissioner, in a stupid moment of not knowing future consequences, gave them tax exemption. But that's I had to tell you that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's, it's just amazing that you can walk into the commissioner or the director of the IRS, walk into the building and demand to see him, be seen, and then literally, if you ask me, that's extortion, that's blackmail. But they did it and they got away with it. That's completely amazing to me that these things happen like that. And the thing is not only did they do it, they bragged about it and bragged about how they were going to do it.
Oh, David Miscavige has never stopped touting the greatness of himself for getting the tax exemption. Every now and again, when they're being totally trashed, they pick up this video where Miscavige announced it. It's interesting. He called it "The War is Over."
Yes, I remember.
Interesting. He identified it as a war with the IRS, a war. Now, I want to ask you from your law enforcement perspective,
Mhm.
how does police and law enforcement view the fact that they got religious tax exemption? Now, the cult spun this to say that the government says we're a religion. Nonsense. The IRS cannot say what is a religion, what is not a religion. They are not theologians. They're a bunch of lawyers and CPAs. They're nerdy.
Yeah.
All they know is to study Excel spreadsheets and so they can't tell what is a religion, what isn't a religion.
Right.
What they can do is to see if you qualify for the checklist. Do they have a moral code? Boom. Scientology invents way to happiness. Look, we have a moral code for the IRS. Do they have Sunday services? Boom. Scientology fake pretends they have worship services, which is simply listening to a Harvard lecture. That's their Sunday service. So there's a checklist. Do they do this? Do they check? And Scientology had to match the checklist to give them tax exemption. Yeah. So back to my question.
Mhm.
Is there some respect or how does law enforcement look that they got religious tax exemption doesn't name them as a religion.
Right.
It's just that they got tax exemption because they met qualifications.
Well, in the over 30 years in law enforcement, there were only one or two times where I ever dealt with anything to do with laws pertaining to religions or religious status kind of organizations. And that's the majority of law enforcement. We normally don't deal with these kinds of things. Normally, it's going to be your cities that are around where the organization is based out of, like your Clearwater or your Los Angeles or Hemet. And those are the places where they'll deal with it more. To be honest with you, until Going Clear and then Leah with Mike and the Aftermath, Scientology and the different religious groups that were out there, even the Jehovah's Witnesses, we never even thought about them. You got to remember, working in a Detroit suburb, we were, when I first started there, we had a very high crime rate in our city. And so we were literally, you would work your 8-hour shift and you would literally come in with anywhere from 4 to 10 calls waiting for you. Domestics, fights, all these different kinds of things that we would have to deal with. And then we're literally bouncing from call to call to call. And we had to get there, get them as cleared as quickly as possible with the best outcome, and then go to the next call. So something like that where, it's Scientology or it's Jehovah's Witnesses or one of the other groups, we never dealt with those kinds of things. And that's, a lot of people are like, well, why isn't law enforcement taking a different look at it? If you've got a husband and wife that are having a domestic violence situation with serious injuries, and your budget says you have enough for training for either domestic violence training or for training in occults, the chiefs are going to look at what do I use the most? I use the domestic violence training. So that's where they're going to send them. And that's why a lot of law enforcement agencies don't do anything to do with cults, because we never see it. We never deal with it. Now, of course, after 9/11, after 9/11, we started getting a lot more into terrorism and domestic terrorism and a lot more training like that. And then after the incidents that had been happening in the schools, we were doing a lot more in the active shooter, where you have a barricaded gunman, those kinds of things. And those took precedent over the kind of training that we were getting. And a lot of departments just don't have a high enough budget to go into things that are more into what you would consider like a left field kind of thing. We have to stay more grounded to what our actual mission purpose is and our mission statement and our operational outline. And that is to serve the public in general. And oftentimes things like cult work and those things, those are specialty kind of classes. As a matter of fact, I just looked the other day, there was a class on dealing with cults and occult organizations. And I believe the class was something around $2,000. It was a week-long class, and you were going to have to travel. I think it was to Missouri to take this class. So it's not a financially advantageous thing for a police department. And when a lot of chiefs look at these things, they're looking at, is this training going to benefit my department, and how is it going to benefit my department? So when you look at that and you're saying, like with us, we're a Detroit suburban police department, we didn't have the money to, number one, fly someone out to another state, put them in a hotel for a week with with the vouchers for their food and drink while they're there, and then pay for the $2,000 class on top of it. I honestly, I would love to talk with folks that we could actually put something together where we could put together a free training program for these departments so that they could see it and they don't have to worry about, how am I going to get someone there? Actually turn it into an online kind of video training program, or do Zoom kind of training, but a way that we could actually get it to them and do it for free. And that way we could help train officers nationwide in these kinds of things. But that's one of the big problems with it. A lot of them don't understand what they're looking at when they deal with these kinds of groups, and there's no real training out there that they're getting. So that's one.
That's very interesting. That's very interesting, because when many people have reported different things to the FBI, and the humiliation of having to clean a dumpster with a toothbrush, the punishments always have an edge of humiliation. It's almost like they want to freeze you with the shock of when they don't just remove you to clean the decks or swab it. You have to clean toilets. And even at Celebrity Center, because they couldn't throw anyone overboard, there's no ocean for an hour's drive to the Pacific, or 45 minutes to the Pacific Ocean. They were putting people's heads in the toilet and flushing them as punishment.
Well, look at the musical chairs games that Mike Render talks about.
Yeah.
And like you said, there is such an air of humiliation of, this is your last ditch effort kind of things. Oh, if you don't win, I'm sending you to the South African org or something like that. Those are the kinds of things that were being reported by Render, by before he went back, Marty Rathbun. They were talking about these different kinds of things that were happening and how they had to deal with it. So
yeah, but what we're saying is law enforcement can't quite fathom why people would even be in such a imprisonment, and why they would allow themselves to be. There's no real connect when you talk to an FBI agent of the horror in there that's beyond their reality. You've gotten more and more reality because you're on these sites and you hear all the stories and all that.
Correct.
But a normal law enforcement guy, he thinks you're just embellishing or exaggerating, or you got to do a day in the RPF to realize the horror of it. Horror.
The when you're talking about that, and a lot of people don't realize the actual horrors that we see in law enforcement, the abuses that other people do to each other. Going to a home where children were passed away in a house fire, and having to go through that house and find them. Those are the kinds of things that, we see such traumatic incidents and things that are happening in the way that people are treating each other, or just the accidents that happen. To think that an organization doing those kinds of things to their members, it's out of our realm of reasoning. We don't understand it, how this could be going on like this. So yeah, it's understandable. There's just we, even though we see these things, we get shocked on a daily basis, and we learn new things every day that we never thought of. And I guess it's one of those things where the old statement, "It's not in my wheelhouse," is the
Mhm.
reason why a lot of law enforcement doesn't look into it. I'm amazed. Aaron Smith Levin posted videos of tours of the hotels where they were making the org members when they were coming in for training at Flag. They
Mhm.
were staying in these hotels and they were packing 11 people into these rooms with bunk beds made out of 2x4s.
Mhm.
And, these are rooms that are made for no more than two people to begin with.
Mhm.
And now they're going in there and they're stuffing every square inch of that room with these bunk beds so they can get 11 people in there and then charging horrendous amounts of money for them to stay there. My first question is, this video's out there. It's public. It's all over the place on YouTube and other places. Why isn't the Clearwater ordinance officer out there looking into it? Why
Mhm.
isn't the fire marshal going in and going, wait a minute, you're violating fire code?
Yeah.
All these things that, should be taken care of, but it's just not happening. I don't understand why agencies right there dealing with this aren't doing something about it.
Mhm.
But then I look at how much are they paying to the police
Mhm.
department? How much are they paying officers to work off duty as security for this organization? And then suddenly, whether or not it's true or not, it certainly throws the air that there is something that is unethical going on there. And it's up to whoever is in charge of that department or those departments or agencies. They need to be the ones who put the stop to this
Mhm.
and say, look, all right, from here on out, we're not doing private security for anyone. It's that simple. It's causing too much of an ethical backlash on us. And we're looking like we aren't doing our jobs honorably in the way that we're supposed to as law enforcement. That's the way that you start stopping these things, is you take that money concern out of it, and then it stops being a matter of, well, if I go in there and do something about that, I'm going to lose my extra 20 grand a year I make working private security for them off duty. So there's a lot of reasons that are going into that.
Yeah, it's well known that Clearwater police make money off duty working for the cult, and it's hard really to bite the hand that feeds you
Exactly.
too heavily. So it's an ethical conflict. I interviewed a guy early on my channel who was the estates manager in Los Angeles. 11 people in a room. He was in 22 people in a room, a larger corner room, 22. So your sleep was just one little band before the next person, and these rooms smelled of dirty socks, of sweat, and just walking into the room was a vomit. And they lived like this.
Yeah.
But he blew the whistle that when an inspection was going to come after some whistleblowing, they were alerted. The cult was always alerted by the agency coming to, and things were shoved around and tidied up and this and that, and sample rooms were shown to the inspectors with only two people living. So there is a tip-off that occurs, and Scientology makes sure that they're tipped off before an agency comes to inspect. Any comment?
I think Juliana Bittencourt has a great statement as to this, and I think it mirrors the Wicked Witch and the Snow White story. It amazes me how Scientology seems silly and harmless until you learn about it, and that's what makes it even more dangerous and destructive. Just like the wicked stepmother or the queen or whatever in Snow White, where she transformed herself into this frail elderly woman who was just there to look out for Snow White, while the whole time she was just building the facade to give her the poison apple. And I think that's an excellent statement there that Juliana made, that they seem harmless. They seem like they're one of those silly kind of fringe religions, until you actually start learning about it and you see just how dangerous things are and what they're doing to their own people. Let's see. Alex had a question for you here. Karen, how do you motivate yourself to keep on going and keep your head up despite the constant attacks?
Alex, I love that question. You know, there's a cartoon story of Batman. And Batman he had amnesia, he was locked in a prison. I'm just summarizing the cartoon. He was dazed and he was immobilized. And then one day, he suddenly got an awareness. I am Batman. I can fly through walls. I can fly. I am a power source. I'm creating my reality. I don't have to. And the moment he realized he was Batman, he got his power back. Alex, the attacks on me really in the long run are diddly squat. I know my own power. I know my own abilities. And I'm in a very good place. I'm in the vortex of my own creation. So, the, the babble, which people now know is imagine while Mike Rinder was spokesman for 20 years, they're now claiming that he was a rapist and wife beater. So did they put on a spokesman who was a wife beater for 20 years and a rapist for 20 years? Because that's the time frame that he was representing the church. You see, the real public know that these are just OSA programs of bullshit. So how do I carry on? I am Batman. I don't know if you can just get the shift of awareness when I realized.
We got to get you the black Lamborghini like the Batwoman of LA does. Have you seen her?
Yeah. Yeah. It's all it is, Alex, is it's a shift of reality. And when you can do that, you are bulletproof.
And to me, I think it's a sign that you're being effective. If they're coming after you, we're exposing something. Mm-hmm. And I think that, for me, I don't care. Come after me. What are you going to do to me? My wife knows me better than anyone in the world, and she's not going to believe any of that garbage they're going to put out there. My friends know me. They know who I am. They know how I operate. They know my ethics and honor. So they're not going to believe it. So, you're not going to damage me. And quite honestly, it's a badge of honor for me if they come after me. So I don't worry about it. Let them bring it. I'm not going to back down from a fight. That's for sure. And your husband has a really good statement on this as well. And thank you for that super there, Jeffrey. The Danny Masterson case had to be secretly kept in the downtown LAPD Major Crimes Unit. This was to keep LAPD Hollywood Station from leaking files and data to Scientology. That's a real telling statement there, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The major LAPD no longer trusted the Hollywood branch. They knew Hollywood was in cahoots and had been compromised by the cult. So now all these police officers don't trust these police officers. That's I'm glad Jeffrey brought that up. It's a wow, isn't it?
Yeah, isn't that, that's amazing that within your own department, you become so fractalized that you don't even trust another division of your own agency to do the job properly.
Of your own agency.
Yeah.
Of your own agency.
And let's see, Joel McQueen, more of a comment. I have some friends had a son in the Sea Org. They were confused about it. I had them watch your videos, and it helped them to understand and really know he is out now. Thanks.
Joel, thank you. You made my day. Thank you, Joel.
I think that's the real telling point, is that you get feedback like that, and you know that it's helping, and that people are being able to move on and blow from Scientology and start working towards getting a life outside of it. I think that's the true gift of these kinds of interviews and the different content that we're putting out there. It's
Hmm.
real time examples of how you're actually doing good and how you're helping those that are in or those who are getting out. I think that's a real earmark for you, and shows, that you're, all the stuff you're putting up with, that's your reward. That's why you're doing it, is you're exposing the lies and what they're doing. And I think that's just awesome. And thank you, Joel, for sharing that. That's absolutely amazing. And it's like with me, when I would deal with the young people and I would see them going down the wrong path. And so what I started doing is I started partnering with the unions around the Detroit area. And as these young people were getting closer to being able to get out of school, my guarantee to them was, you graduate high school. I don't care if you graduate by the skin of your teeth. You graduate. I will pay for your union book so that you can become part of this union and start building a career for yourself. And there's several young people who to this day, one young man still works for Detroit Edison, the big electric company. And I paid for his union book. He went down to Ohio, did 2 weeks of training, came back. Now he's a father, has three children,
Beautiful.
and every
Lovely.
year he calls
Lovely.
me around Christmas time, and we sit and talk for 2-3 hours at a time.
Mhm.
To me, that's the reward,
Yes,
to
very
see
much
that he
so.
turned his life around. This is a young man heading to prison if he didn't stop.
Yeah.
And now he's a father. He goes to church every Sunday, has this great
Mm.
family, and has this, amazing grouping of friends that all support each other. And to me, that's worth more than anything that I could have gotten out of it.
That's a beautiful story, Paul. That's very nice. Every week of my life, I get 2 or 3 emails with the similar saying, Karen, you know what? We dodged a bullet. We watched your videos. We were hesitant on a big money cycle, and we walked away. And or the kid, the 14-year-old, was going to go in the Sea Org, and they were 5 minutes from, and they
Wow.
just ended from. And I get these huge thank yous every week of my life, and it's incredibly rewarding.
And that's
As you said, I get over 1 million views a year on my
yeah,
channel.
and that's for me, I really fight sometimes, because the wife and I talk about it, and when I've got, we go to like civic events around the Detroit area. We never go to a single one where someone doesn't recognize me. And a
Ah,
lot of times you'll have someone come up and they'll go, "Hey, Officer Poe, how you doing?" I'll see him. "Oh, hey, I haven't seen you in years. How you doing?" "Great. Well, here's my kid." "Hey, kids, this is Officer Poe. He stopped me from becoming a bad guy.
mm,
He
mm,
took me to the side and he said, 'Hey, look, you're going to screw your life up if you
mm,
don't stop what you're doing.'"
mm,
And he put a boot in my hind end and told me I need to get on the straight and narrow. And this guy right here, he changed my life because of it. And like I told the wife, I said, sometimes it gets a little hard not to overthink it and just
mm,
accept it for what it is. But
mm.
to me, I love it. I absolutely love. I was at Disney World with my family and had someone come up and do that to us. We're
Beautiful.
1,200
Yeah,
miles away, and
yeah,
it
yeah.
my wife just sit there. She just smiled at me, and
Nice,
that to me was awesome.
nice.
And
Yeah.
and while we're talking about all that, let's talk about fair game. Why Scientology attacks its critics so fiercely, and in spite of all the horrible PR they're getting from the internet. What
Yeah.
what is the basis?
It's a self-sabotage there. You mentioned Leah Remini earlier, and you
Mhm.
mentioned we looked at the $5 million she had given the cult and 35 years of her life. You would think if they really had a technology that worked, you would think that someone they had total access to for 35 years and $5 million would be someone other than who Leah is now. The fair game on Leah is beyond anything. It is, and hence the lawsuit. Oh, now in her lawsuit, she just doesn't want them to stop for her. She
It's
wants
everybody.
them to stop the abuses for everybody. She really has, uh, I can't tell you how much I admire Leah. Why do they keep doing it? Because, I'm going to send you something which you're going to enjoy called OSA Network Orders.
Ooh, yeah.
They were the old guardian of it, but they lied to the
Mhm.
Department of Justice and said, we had these few rogue personnel, they're all fired. We're not going to do any of that again. When after the raids, when they saw how diabolical the cult was, how they were
Well,
trying to.
Hubbard's own wife fell on her sword for it. I mean,
Yeah. So
I
I'm
mean,
going to, yeah, go
go ahead.
ahead.
Well, in my view, letting his wife, who, even though she may have been part of it, honestly, it sounds like they're following his own tech that he's putting out there for him, and allowing his wife to take the fall for it and go to prison. That's a coward in my book. Be stand up and do what you're supposed to. Be that kind of husband that you're supposed to be. But no, he ran and hid and let her take it. So
Yeah, he did. Isn't it interesting the way Miscavige is echoing and copying? Hubbard shoved his wife away, disconnected from her, never saw her, let her take the fall, and now Miscavige has siphoned away his wife. The, the Don't you
that's
see the
interesting. The
parallel
mirroring
there?
of that.
Huh?
Yeah. The mirroring of that.
Yes, it's a mirroring, right? He's doing what Hubbard did to his wife. He's not making Shelley take the brunt because, of course, no one would. She was just an assistant. But he is expelling her from all connections and having her in a hideaway. And that's exactly what Hubbard did with Mary Sue Hubbard. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's amazing. And now here we have Shelley, who no one's heard from in such a long time. And then you look and look at all the people who have actually gone missing. I mean, Heber, we don't know where he actually is. We know where they say he is. You have Bob Ferris, Liz's father, and the horrific story that goes on with that. How many people have disappeared that no one knows where they are or what's going on with them, or even know if they're alive. And to me, that I think that's probably one of the scariest things is how many people are no longer with us and they don't, and we have no way of finding out. You went through something very similar yourself, and all for the purpose of disconnection and to punish you for no longer being there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I applaud you so much. I don't know if I lost one of my children, I'd lose my mind. I absolutely would. It would destroy me in a way that nothing ever could. Losing my mother would be horrific, but that's how life works. Your parents go before you. To lose one of my children would literally destroy me from the inside out. And I just don't know how I would even be able to move forward. And I applaud you, and I am I'm in awe of how you've not only faced the fair gaming that you've been put through, but how you've faced the other things, and you still move on, you move forward, and you are so strong and just a perfect lady in every way that I can think of. So,
Oh, Paul, you are just too kind. See, after I caved in and really got it that he was dead, they absolutely blocked me from. They would not let me even give him a last look and kiss on his forehead. They frightened the memorial. What do you call it? The house the place that takes dead bodies.
oh, the funeral home.
Funeral home. God.
Yeah, that's all right.
They frightened the owner of the funeral. He was terrified to even talk to me. He said, no, I've been given, you can't come in, you can't see it. And there was just a wall. His dead body was just the other side of the wall. We had traced everything, the coroner had been helping us. We knew it had been transferred there, and it was going to be cremated the next day. And I begged of them, please, let me see him. And he was just spooked. They threatened to sue the living daylights out of him if he let. So I never got to see him. This was just vengeance. I
Yeah.
had served them for 20 years. I'd worked 60, 80 hours a week for peanuts. None of that count. They were going to shove it up
And
and
it's
punish me.
pointless vengeance. It's pointless. They've made their point far before that of how they feel about you. That is just cruel, heartless evil.
Not only that, they never told me he died. They
Right.
didn't. They don't inform their relative of the death. Aaron Smith Levin, who was a total stranger to me, never heard the name, messaged me on Facebook, my son, through Facebook Messenger. And he
Wow.
said, "You don't know me, and I'm very, very sorry to bring you bad news, but Alexander is dead." I've still got the, now and again I
The
put it up.
message. Yeah.
And immediately I said, "I think you got it wrong. He was an old man." He
Right.
was probably dead. Alexander's only 27. And he said, "Karen, no, because he had connections and he had totally verified it. You don't go telling a mother your son is dead without, he had corroborated it."
Wow.
And we immediately called the coroner, and immediately, yes, his dead body was lying there with a toe tag in a refrigerated. He was just one shelf among all the dead bodies, one after another. And I collapsed.
I bet.
There is such a thing as having a mental collapse. However, when you say I'm brave, after a spell of time, I realized I could either curl up in a ball and just moan and complain. First of all, I took it on myself. I brought this child into a cult. I was such a believer, and I let him be born in a cult. So I looked at my responsibility there. But I could either weep and wail and moan and be a victim and on and on and on, or I could get my act together and I could expose this cult absolutely in a high.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a number one, and I did reach a number one for a while because they weren't all the second gen. There was hardly anyone making videos at the time. So they came after me. And the more they did, the more they energized me. It didn't ever shut me up for a second. I just went to town and I interviewed people and I did more and more videos. And so what they did to me and Alexander actually, and you know how foolish they were. I'll tell you how foolish they were. I was in such a destitute mental collapse. If they had shown me a little kindness, if they had said, "We're sorry this happened. Come on in and get a little," if they had got me at a weak moment, none of those 13 million videos would have even, they could have, because I was in such bad shape. But instead, I grew and I became the superbug. If it doesn't kill you, it'll make you stronger.
I think that it also, putting your story out there, it helps in the healing process, but it also gives strength to those who are afraid that they're not going to be able to handle these things. So I think that what you've done not only has been amazing in helping you process it, but also you're helping so many others at the same time. And I think that I also, you can't blame yourself, for you brought him into this world. You were a mother. You were doing something that you truly believed in. This was part of your life. You'd spent so many years there and you believed in the foundation of it. Lord, you were married to the president of international services, so you truly believed it. You can't look at it and go, "I can't believe I did this to my child." No, you did what you thought you were doing right. They're the ones who were the wrong in this. Don't blame yourself for that. And now that you're out, yeah, you have a different viewpoint on things, but you can't blame yourself for what you were believing then.
Mm-hmm.
And it's and I also feel for like Liz Ferris, her thinking that her father was dead for 15 years. And then find out not only is he not dead, they've got him in his 70s digging ditches along a fence line, and still she can't see him. And, I think that that just goes to show you the depravity of this organization, that they're willing to do these things, deprive a mother of seeing her child who has passed, making a child feel that their parent is passed while they're still alive. And I think that the truth shows itself. Joel McQueen says, Karen is as strong as they come. She walks when most would crawl.
Oh, Joel, you are too kind. Thank you, Joel. Thank you.
He's a silver-tongued devil, isn't he?
Aaron Smith Levin gave me the heads up that Alexander was dead because he worked with Alexander. They were in the Sea Org same time at American Saint, and he alerted me. And then I exploded it on the internet because they had tried to bury it. No one, not even staff who worked with him, knew he was dead. Not even So I then decided to give Alexander a farewell, and I hired a yacht off that would go to Catalina. You can, Los Angeles is on the ocean. I invited everyone, whether they were anonymous, whether they were indies, free zoners, ex-Scientologists, critics, the whole shebang, because that was how Alexander was. He never looked at someone as the color of their skin or the religiousness. He embraced. He had a big tent. He just was naturally like that. So I invited everyone. And 200-300 people showed up. We had exquisite catering, and we had balloons go up in the sky and so on. But they had a ceremony. They quickly devised a ceremony when they knew I was doing a big song and dance about it at Celebrity Center. And one of my friends, as an undercover spy, wrote to this celebration of life of Alexander and said, Can Karen come? She was the mother. And this is a hilarious anecdote. Pamela Johnson said, Karen De La Carriere has caused herself to not be part of this sector of the universe.
Ooh. I didn't know they controlled the universe.
Yes, the grandiose thing. So she is not invited and will never be invited to this sector of the universe. And I just cracked. She came to me and said, Karen, I tried to get you in. I said, you're not invited to this sector of the universe. And I just cracked up. This is the arrogance and complete hallucination and delusion of their greatness. Oh, we had agreed to 1 hour. We've hit 1 hour. I want to come back with you on the OT8.
Well, I've got more questions that we got to get you back here for.
Yes.
But I know that you are.
I want to do this. This quite regularly with you.
Well, look how easily it's been flowing. I mean, that's the thing is you get two people like us who can talk, and we'll start turning a 5-minute session into a 2-hour ordeal real quickly.
Yes.
So.
Yes.
But folks, Karen is, if you haven't noticed, Karen is extremely busy, and I feel so honored that she's given me the time that she has. So we're definitely going to.
You're too kind. Goldie and Apostate Alex, thank you so much for guarding the gates. I'm sure they were, but I am Batman.
I got a great idea. We need to get you and Jeffrey on at the same time.
Yeah, that would be great.
But that's going to be like a 10-hour live stream with the three of us. So, but Yeah, Goldie, if you could put the link up there for the Aftermath Foundation, please, I'd really appreciate it, hon. You or Alex. Folks, if you are in
Mm,
Scientology,
mm,
you're scared. You
mm,
don't know what to do. You don't know how you're going to get out. You don't know how you're going to get your family out and do it safely. The aftermathfoundation.org is your resource. They can do it anonymously, or they can let you be as public with it as you want to be. But they are there to help you, and they're to help you get back on your feet and do it safely, and make sure you get the tools that you need to move forward. Now, they're not an end all. There are a lot of things that you're going to have to work on yourself, but being in Scientology, you got a pretty good work ethic as it is. So really wouldn't worry about that. But they're going to be your starting point. And I know there are many of you out there that are secretly watching these videos and you want out, but you don't know how to do it. The aftermathfoundation.org. And it looks like Prostate Alex has put the link out there. And don't be afraid. Just, you've got to take that step. And once you take that step, next thing you know, you're going to be coasting into a whole new life without all the restrictions, without all of the evil that you're faced to deal with, without all the consequences of something like this. So please, we're here to help you. And you may have been someone who did something horrible to other people, but we realize it was because of the influence and the rules of this organization. If someone like Mike Render can come out and say, yes, I did it, but I apologize, and we forgive him, we're going to forgive you. And we want to help you. We want you to succeed. We want you to be able to move forward in life and be a positive member of the community. Karen, do you have any parting thoughts for us before we go here, hon?
I would like to say thank you to Laura FM. Laura, huggies. Thank you. Thank you for your sweet comment.
Oh, I didn't see it.
Huh?
I didn't see it.
Laura FM. Anyway, what are my final things? Please don't take anything I said as making you reluctant to report to the just because I said law enforcement doesn't understand the RPF. That's
Excellent.
just an empathy thing. Keep reporting. Keep reporting. Keep reporting. Law enforcement, the Department of Justice, the U.S. attorneys, the IRS, they can keep the floods and floods of report are a good thing. They're a very good thing. I think Jeffrey should send you this little link where you can report malfeasance. He can send you can put it in the description.
Yeah, Jeffrey, if you want to throw that in there.
There are a couple of very good links. Easy as pie. Report it.
I'll put that in every video I do.
Keep letting the government know.
Let me tell you from experience. Mm-hmm. If one person says something that seems far-fetched, then you possibly have a kook that you're dealing with. Okay. Mm-hmm. It's someone, conspiracy theory, all that kind of stuff. If two people say it, suddenly it starts gaining traction. Mm-hmm. 3, 4, 5, 6, 10. Suddenly it goes from being a conspiracy theory to we need to crack down on this. Mm-hmm. So do not be afraid to report the crimes that you know of. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, you're doing the right thing by reporting it. And don't be, they did that to the IRS, but you can only do it so many times. And now with the internet, everyone knows what is going on and how that they do things. So do not be afraid to report these things. Mm-hmm. So, and before we get going here, let's bring our buddy Clearwater Chad in. Chad, what'd you think, buddy?
Hi, Chad. Hi.
Hey, that was great. That was great.
All right, folks. Again, Karen, it's my true honor to have you here. I have followed your content that you have on your YouTube channel. I've known about you for some time. And when Alex actually reached out to me and said, hey, Karen would like to talk to you, I was like, you gotta be kidding me. And, it's led me to start. We did the live streams with Jeffrey. And now, you're here, and now we're going to get you back because we got to finish this up. But, for me, this is one of those things where I'm able to talk to and get to know someone that I've looked up to for some time. And I truly thank you. And I really mean it when I say that you are the truest form of a lady that I know. You're like, to me, it's like with my mother. When I think of you, I think of a lady, of someone who carries themselves properly and is someone that everyone just, when they see you, they're just like, wow, because they know. And I thank you so much. You've honored me greatly by coming here and spending your time with me. And your friendship has meant the world to me. I really appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Paul. Thank you so very much.
So, have you met our friend Chad before?
Have I met Chad? No.
No, this is
No.
Clearwater Chad. He
Yeah.
comes on pretty much every one of my videos. Say he had started out doing a parody of being a member of OSA, and for the longer to this day, I still get people telling me, "I think he's OSA. He's investigating you," and they don't know. You know, Chad's a great guy. He's a member of the Never Ends as part of the SPTV verse here, and really good guy. He does some great content, and he's been a good friend to me since I pretty much started. And
Yeah.
I really appreciate having his friendship. And we need folks, if you haven't gotten to Chad's site, make sure you get over there, but also get to Karen's YouTube page, get those likes and subscriptions on there. There's a fountain, a literal mountain of great content there that you're just not going to see anywhere else. So as always, folks, thank you so very much for spending your precious time with us. Every
you,
one of us works
everybody.
hard, and
Yeah, appreciate it.
you know, to spend your time with us truly means something great to us. We appreciate each and every one of you. And, you know, as always, life's short. You get one shot and you need to make it count. And Karen and Chad, if you'll just hang out, we'll, as soon as the outro is done, we'll chat a little bit more and get some things